Welcome to my review / recap of House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 1, A Son for a Son. Firstly, we begin with a brand new set of opening credits. Personally, I absolutely loved them. It was literally the weaving of the Targaryen histories. All the way from the Valyrians to the Doom, to Aegon the Conqueror and his sisters, all the way through to present day House Targaryen Dance of the Dragons era. The episode opens up and we're in the north. We see Winterfell, we see the Wall, we see a raven swooping in. It's all very intentional. And of course, we finally get to meet Lord Cragen Stark. It's about time, I've been waiting for this. Cragen says, "Duty is sacrifice. It eclipses all things, including blood." And he's talking about the Night's Watch and their commitment, their oaths, their honour. He says it's not a sentence, but an honour. That is the realest thing ever, because this is the thing about Northerners. In this story, they've had to spend their entire lives just trying to survive the harsh winters. It's not an easy life. So they come at things with a different perspective. There's more of I guess you'd call it a collective atmosphere, everyone pitching in and doing your duty for the greater good. So the Night's Watch, House Stark, all of the North really, they take their oaths very seriously. We see Jace and Cragen and they're on top of the Wall, and you can tell they're already getting on like a house on fire. They seem to have made a close bond. But there's something on Cragen's mind, and he's saying to Jace, "Look, I get it. We have sworn to uphold Rhaenyra as the heir, and we're going to do that. However, at the same time, it does not negate the greater threat that we Northerners have to constantly deal with. Very winter is coming, because that is the real threat. That Cragen he's trying to impart that onto Jace, who at this point is acting like a regular Southerner, sort of like, what's the worst that is out there?" Famous last words. And just to touch back on the relationship between Cragen and Jace in this brief moment, to try and not overthink it, but to try and extrapolate something, there was a really interesting part where Cragen said, basically, one of the reasons that, I'm agreeing to this is that you didn't come here and threaten me with your dragon the way that Aegon the Conqueror did with Torrhen Stark, the king who knelt. The fact that Jace came humbly. He didn't come in threatening and arrogant, like some. And Cragen is very much talking about unity, about the unity of the entire realm, because everyone is going to have to band together if they're going to survive what is coming. He's trying to tell Jace the real war, that's with the dead. And another thing I absolutely loved about this scene was Cragen talking to Jace about when Queen Alicent came to the Wall, Silverwing refused to cross over. Now that is A Song of Ice and Fire lore. That's the deep stuff. And I really appreciated that they included that. And I really appreciated that little moment, because it felt like a little something for us book fans. It's magic, it's dragons, it's the Wall, it's the histories. All of this is kind of coming together. It's basically all about the greater struggle. Then the Raven comes and delivers urgent news from Dragonstone, and Cragen Stark's face, you knew it was the face of someone who, this is not going to be good news, and I'm going to have to tell you something bad's happened here. Now we're in Dragonstone, and this is one of my, if not my favourite place in Westeros in terms of castles. It's kind of neck and neck with the Eyrie, but for different reasons, which I will elaborate on another day. My friend James sent me a tweet, and it was like, "We love the valet parking at Dragonstone." So basically in this scene, we've got Rhaenys returning from patrolling the blockade of the Gullet on top of her dragon Meleys. And Damon. Okay, Damon is literally an excited little puppy right now. He's hyper, he's on edge, he's itching to do something. So of course, when Rhaenys returns, he's right there waiting for her. She didn't even get a moment, a breath. Long story short, Damon is blaming Rhaenys for what happened to Luke. Had you taken out the Greens when you had the chance, Luke would still be alive. And yeah, technically, but also it's not that straightforward. And Damon knows this. We also learn that Rhaenyra, she's gone. She's nowhere to be found on Dragonstone. She's basically gone off to try and find clarity, some kind of an attempt at closure, because she needs to know, is Luke alive? And until she does, she'll be tormented. This is what Rhaenys is trying to explain to Damon. Like, she can't begin to grieve until she knows without a shadow of a doubt he's gone. And it's just interesting that Rhaenys says, you know, I was the same way with Laena. So we had that parallel. But also, Damon lost Laena and he handled it in a different way. Everyone handles grief differently, and Damon should know this. But one of the issues with Damon Targaryen, part of his bravado and his persona, is he's not all that good at showing his vulnerability sometimes. My honest take from the gut is Damon blames himself, because he's the protector of the family. He's the father figure. And yeah, he wasn't to know, but that's not going to make him feel any better. He's going to be like, Luke died on my watch. What could I have done differently? Shoulda, woulda, coulda. That's going to be running through his mind. But rather than take a beat and think about things a bit more rationally, Damon is just reacting purely on emotion, and that's why he's lashing out at everybody. It's everyone's fault, when really he knows deep down it was, at best, it was an accident. At worst, it was Aemond. He chased him. Damon knows this, but because this is so fresh and raw, he can't quite bring himself to admit that. It's just easier to blame whoever is in the room. So Rhaenys is his first target, but she's not having any of it. She's like, I am your much older cousin. You're not going to try this with me. He's like trying to command her. And she's like, hell no. No. If only you were the king. And I kind of love that for her. Now we're at Shipbreaker's Bay, overlooking Storm's End. And this is where Rhaenyra and Syrax are. They're just standing there hoping and praying for something to give them confirmation. And this is the face of a broken woman. She knows you're not going to survive going up against Vhagar, but still there's that instinct that is inherent, because she's a mother. She doesn't want to admit her son is gone, but she needs to see something. So she's standing there literally on a wing and a prayer, hoping for something to give her that certainty. And she's also low-key hoping, there's a slim, tiny chance, hoping and praying, Luke might actually be alive. There's a chance. So she's torn. She's in purgatory. She does not know for certain. And it's almost like torture. She's being dangled. He might be alive until I see something. We can't say for certain. Okay, next we are at Driftmark, and we see Corlys talking to a man named Alan. You're going to want to keep a close eye on Alan, because he will feature in this story. He's going to be important. But as of now, he's in charge of basically getting extra ships ready to join the Valyrian fleet that is currently blockading this area known as the Gullet. Essentially, they're trying to strangle mainland Westeros, to choke off the trade, the goods, things coming in. They don't want to give the Greens any extra ammunition. So this is one of the tactics. Okay, this broke my heart. Corlys had a gift, custom made for Luke, commissioned by the smithy, and he never got to give it to him. And I loved that we had this little moment, because it showed the relationship between Corlys and Luke. Yes, grandfather, grandson, but they were tight. And it goes to show that what is in a name. Corlys, he knew the rumours. He wasn't dumb. He wasn't blind. It didn't matter. Luke was his grandson. So what I would say is keep an eye on Corlys, because that man is grieving and we don't know how that's going to affect his decisions. Okay, next we're in King's Landing and we see Sir Aric Cargyle, one of the Cargyle twins, and he's basically commanding the Scorpions. I don't know about you guys, I still have kind of PTSD from Game of Thrones eras with the Scorpions, so I felt a kind of way seeing them, like, no, just no. But it's okay, they realise it's Vhagar returning. Now, this is one of my critiques. The episode begins, season 2 begins, about 10 days after the events of Storm's End, so it's not far to travel. Aemond would have been able to return back to the capital pretty quickly. So he's been back home for a while. This isn't him returning, as far as we can tell. What I wish the episode did have was a moment where Alicent and Otto are told what's happened, that Aemond has to basically eat crow in front of them, because their initial reactions are going to be, what on earth have you done? Are you stupid? Like, this is not what we needed at all. Now, publicly, Alicent and Otto will defend Aemond because they have to, for appearances, for optics. But privately, they're going to be fuming because this is a headache they did not need. I would have liked to have seen Aemond being scolded. But instead, we get a moment between Aegon and Helaena, which I did actually really like. I like to see the relationships between these little clusters of characters, because Aegon and Helaena, they have a fascinating relationship. It's odd. It's not like, it's not a love match. They're brother and sister. And we're also given a glimpse of Aegon as a father and Helaena as a mother, and seeing their contrasting parenting styles, which I thought was really interesting. Aegon wants to include Jaehaerys in the small council, which is normal, it's not unusual. Rhaenyra was Viserys' cupbearer. Start them early. But it was interesting that Helaena was like, no, leave him be. He likes his routine. He's in the library. It feels like Helaena has a very good understanding of the children, because she is kind of the primary caregiver. It's going to be Helaena and her handmaidens and Alicent. The women are going to be hands-on. But of course, Aegon, he swans in as king. He says, where's the kid? I want him to come through. Helaena can't really do anything about it. Now, in this scene, Helaena says something very interesting. She says, I'm afraid. And Aegon thinks, do you mean of Rhaenyra and her dragons? And Helaena says, no, the rats. Now, obviously, this is the show telling us that Helaena, she has these abilities. She has these moments where she sees things or has a vision, and it's not always clear what it is, but from a viewer's perspective, we obviously know it is foreshadowing. Then we get quite a shocking scene of Alicent Hightower with Sir Criston Cole. I'm not really here for it, if I'm honest. I mean, part of me is like, girl, you were married to a much older man. It was not a fun time for Alicent in her marriage. So I'm like, girl, go get yours. Get it. But of all people, Sir Criston Cole, his character just makes my skin crawl. But at the same time, I'm hoping that Alicent is just playing him. This is all part of a greater ruse. Because Alicent is not dumb. She's seen Sir Criston Cole. She's seen him at the wedding between Laenor and Rhaenyra, and the way he just showed himself up at that wedding. He should have been reprimanded. I don't understand why there was no punishment. And then obviously he was Rhaenyra's sworn sword, and he turned on said sworn sword and came over to Alicent. Now, you can go into the reasons all day. We can talk about that separately. But Alicent knows he's a man who will be a turncloak. He will flip. He will go to the other side. She knows this. I hope that she's not forgotten this. And also him asking her to reattach the white cloak. Be serious. Like, you should not be wearing the sacred cloak of the Kingsguard. You're meant to be Lord Commander, and you're meant to set an example. And you're off doing the Queen. This is why I can't with Criston Cole. He is a hypocrite, and I don't even think he cares I don't think he understands that there is a double standard. I don't think he cares. He's still bitter because Rhaenyra wouldn't go off and sell oranges with him. Like, he's not grown in 20 years. He's still that guy. Okay, moving on to the small council. And you've got, all the key figures. Aegon, Otto, Alicent, Tywin Lannister. Basically, everyone is assembled who is Aegon's closest team. They're his little sort of unit. Shout out to this moment. We don't get a lot of levity in House of the Dragon. It is a pretty serious show. So to have a little moment where young Jaehaerys is just tormenting Tywin Lannister, I was here for it because it was funny. We needed that little moment because it's not going to get much better. Things are going to get dark. So we'll take the humour where we can. We learn that Alicent has been writing letters to Rhaenyra, but they've been going unanswered. No surprises. Alicent, let's remember, Alicent was hopping mad when Aemond lost his eye. Fuming, livid. She remembers that feeling. She's never really let it go. Times that by about 1 million. And that's what Rhaenyra's going through. And Alicent knows this. Alicent still has her son. She knows the stakes. Now, I'm going to give her credit. Good. You did the right thing. The decent thing was to reach out to Rhaenyra. However, it's a day late, $1 short, because you are part of the reason why this all happened. So there needs to be some acknowledgement of that. Same applies to Otto Hightower, who's now saying, let's be cautious. Let's take a breath. Says the man who's been scheming for decades. This is what you wanted. You caused this. Like, if we're going to blame anyone, we're going to go back and, we could say Jaehaerys with the Great Council should have just picked Rhaenys. We can get into that. But Otto Hightower, I hold him so very responsible for everything Alicent's gone through. Like, it all tracks back to her father. Like, the way that everything, all these strands, it all goes back to Otto. I don't like him. I find him to be a hypocrite. Then Aemond waltzes in, and basically the meeting kind of starts to go a little bit awry. There's not really a lot of cohesion on Team Green. Everyone's kind of saying their bit and everyone has something to contribute, but there's not really any definitive order. Alicent's trying to get a handle on things, but Aemond is prattling on and Aegon's not really listening, and it's a whole thing. So one of the feelings I get from Alicent, on episode 1 at least, is she's exasperated. She's like, I didn't plan for this to happen this way. I'm trying to handle it and deal with it as best I can. Things are happening that are outside of my control, and I'm doing my best. The problem is, I know a lot of us don't have that much sympathy for Alicent's predicament because of the role she played in creating the situation. You can't throw stones and then be shocked that something bad happens. Now, Larys Strong. I don't like him. He's creepy. He's sleazy. He's gross. I don't like him near anyone. I don't want him near Alicent and the kids. I don't like him sniffing around the Red Keep. He's in charge of assessing Alicent's staff. Okay, I mean, I'm going to need a second opinion. I would not trust him at all. You want to keep him near and you want to make him think that, you're buying into everything. You want to be playing him. So I get why he's kept nearby. I get that. But again, I'm hoping that as the season unfolds, one of the things with Alicent is that we realise she's onto everyone. She's just playing the part publicly for appearances, but she's got everyone's number, including Larys Strong. Then we get Alicent in the bathtub scene, and this was actually a really emotional scene for me. My heart kind of broke for Alicent. The way she is vigorously scrubbing at herself, I felt like, ooh, ooh, because it was the same thing she did when she was a young girl, when she was picking her nails. It was what Alicent did. It was how she coped. And the way she was just going over it and over it, like trying to scrub herself clean. I just felt so bad for her. She's obviously conflicted, and whether you agree or disagree with Alicent and her choices and her conduct, that's not a fun space for anyone to be in. Now we're back at the beach at Shipbreaker's Bay at Storm's End, and they found something. It's the remnants of a dragon wing and some kind of clothing that's caught up in a fishing net. So Rhaenyra and Syrax just immediately fly right there. They get there and she runs to look through the sand. It was horrible, absolutely horrible, because it breaks your heart. This is the news she did not want to receive. Now she knows. She knows. There is no hope. That is the saddest part. She knows he's gone. And Syrax wailing, again, that parallel between dragon and rider, a shared sense of pain. And I imagine joy in the good times, but it's this synchronicity between dragon and rider that I actually think House of the Dragon do really, really well. Also, shout out to Emma Darcy, because this is not an easy thing to convey, to display genuine grief. And you can see Rhaenyra going from the denial to just sheer heartbreak. Like, now she knows, and it is tearing her apart. Now, we juxtapose that with what Aegon is experiencing, and he's kind of riding high. Like, Rhaenyra's at a real low point, probably the lowest point in her life. Aegon, it's the opposite. He's riding high. He struts into the throne room. Everybody's there to, to bow and to do as he wants. Everything's looking great. But it doesn't take long to realize that he's not surrounded by the best people. He's got these sycophants who are just leeching off of him. I don't know if they are true friends or whether it's the perks of being friends with a king that is appealing to them. And also, we're starting to see a bit of a wedge between Aegon and his grandfather Otto, because one of the things Otto Hightower does, mistakenly I think, a lot, he has a habit of not knowing when to stop. He did it with Viserys, to the point where Viserys had to tell him off and send him away, like, enough, you've crossed over a line. So we know that Otto doesn't always know where the line is. And it seems to be a problem that is repeating itself with Aegon, because he's kind of overstepping, and Aegon's like, I'm the king, let's not forget. So that's something to keep an eye on. And another thing from this scene, I think Aegon genuinely was trying to do what he thought was best, trying to appease this person who came asking, for a reprieve. He tried to do what he thought was best, but that doesn't always equate with what a king must do, especially a king at a time of war. And it's something he's going to have to learn very quickly, because as Rhaenys said in season 1, these boys, they are sweet children of summer. They do not know what real war is. They've got no understanding. They're not prepared. And that applies to Aegon. He probably thinks he knows what is going to happen, and he's seemingly very confident. I wouldn't be if I was in his shoes. Oh, and of course, there is Larys Strong, again, hovering around. I just don't like him. I just don't like that character at all. Big love to Matthew Needham. You play a creepy Larys really well. But yeah, Larys, I don't like him. He's a snake. We also meet a man named Hugh. Now, it's basically given to us that he is a blacksmith, that he works with hammers a lot. So I'm imagining that this is Hugh the Hammer. Now, he will pop up again further down the line, but it was interesting that we got to see just that little glimpse of him. For those who know, you can probably guess my feelings on this character. Then we get a scene with Alicent and Otto, and he's kept her waiting. So that shows what he thinks of Alicent, because let's face it, she's the queen, but he's looking at her like, oh, you're just my daughter? I didn't like that. I don't think Alicent did either. Basically, in this moment, Alicent and Otto, they say the quiet part out loud. They're like, you know what? Aegon will get tired of this. He'll get bored. That's great. That works to our benefit. We can sweep in and we can be the puppet masters. But I also got a feeling that Otto Hightower was a bit like, ooh, what have I started here? I think he was surprised and taken aback by Alicent. I don't think he expected her to be as assertive as she is now. Like, she's really stepping into her own in this political arena. She's letting it be known what she wants to do. So him acting surprised, like, this is what you wanted. Alicent was just a sweet young girl when she came to the capital. You know, she was a kid, and everything that's happened ever since then, I think you can track back to her father. So if he doesn't like something that Alicent is saying or doing, well, he can blame himself. Next, we're back on Dragonstone, where Misaria, who has fled King's Landing, and she's been rounded up and she's brought before Damon. And again, he lashes out at her. Damon will blame whoever is in the room. And Misaria, she basically says to Damon, look, we're from two different worlds. Your expectations and your standards do not match mine because I've got to hustle to survive. You are a prince. Yeah, I took the Hightower's money because I had to live. You can't understand that because you've never been in my shoes. So I thought she was real for that. Then Damon, he's just bubbling over at this point and he's lashing out. And this time the subject of his ire is Sir Eric Cargyle of the Cargyle twins, the one who brought Rhaenyra her crown and risked his life to do so, might I add, to make sure his queen had this vestige, this symbol of the monarchy, because she didn't have a lot of symbols to tout, to say, I'm the queen. Having the crown smuggled out, that was important. And Eric, he deserves his flowers for that. So Damon's out of line for popping off at Sir Eric. Now, Rhaenyra, she returns to Dragonstone. She has confirmation. She knows what's happened to Luke. She's kind of in a state of shock. I really did like that we got this moment of tenderness between Damon and Rhaenyra because there is an intense love between those two characters. He doesn't like to see her in pain. He wants to stop this. And that nod of the head, you know, that's all Rhaenyra had to do to let Damon know, I have my answer. I know what's happened. So we see Rhaenyra walking around to the head of her table and she is leading the Black Council and everyone kind of stands and says their part individually, but it did feel like it was more of a cohesive team effort than we saw with the Green Council, which seemed more like individuals. So everyone is kind of saying, you know, this is what's happening, this is the update, and Rhaenyra just says one line throughout this entire episode, I want Aemond Targaryen. That's all that needed to be said, really. But credit to Emma Darcy, because to act throughout an entire episode with 4 words of dialogue, that's not easy. So hats off to them. Now, because this is House of the Dragon, this is Westeros, we cut to this image of Damon, who basically takes what Rhaenyra says as his cue, and he decides to proceed with his plan for revenge. He tries to enlist Misaria and to use her skills and resources. We'll come back to Blood and Cheese in a moment, but first I want to talk about this scene between Rhaenyra and Jace. I can't lie, it broke my heart. It was so overwhelming. Like, you really felt this connection between mother and son. It wasn't queen and subject. It wasn't queen and heir. It was a mother and a son, and that's all that mattered in that moment. Jace, he's trying to keep a stiff upper lip. He's trying to be, you know, the grown-up. He's the big brother. But really, Jace is like 15. He's a kid. This is a lot for anyone to take on, and the loss of his baby brother, you know Jace is going to be running a million scenarios through his head. What if we did this? What if that had happened? Would Luke have still been alive? In this initial moment where it's so raw and so fresh, you're going to rehash everything and question everything and blame yourself. I feel like everyone is blaming themselves. Apart from Aemond, of course. And I loved that as soon as Jace started to get emotional and overcome, that is when Rhaenyra immediately jumped into mother mode. She put aside whatever she was going through and she was focused completely on supporting her son in that moment. Also, a little shout out to Baela, who walked Jace in to the room. That little nod to their bond and their closeness, I very much appreciated that. Then we get Luke's funeral, as close to a Targaryen funeral as they can under the circumstances, because they don't actually have his body. They have his cloak. They know he's gone. And to have that interspersed with Alicent in the sept praying, I thought it was very beautifully done. Basically, both sides are utterly miserable because there are no winners in this. I thought it was really touching that the camera zoomed in on Rhaenyra because Luke was her betrothed, her intended. They'd grown up together. They were close. She imagined marrying him one day and having children. That's all been taken away from Rhaenyra. So now she's filled with uncertainty. Now there's a war. What's going to happen? She's already lost her mother, and it was her mother's dragon that did what it did to Luke. I can't imagine what Rhaenyra is going through. Everybody is conflicted. Everybody is in pain. Everyone is having a nightmare of a time. This moment between Jace and Joffrey just, it was so touching, so sentimental. I don't even know what to say. It broke my heart. Okay, now let's go back to Blood and Cheese, because we saw Damon and he's trying to impress Rhaenyra. He wants to get ahead of the game. He wants to do something for her. And he's already had a conversation with Misaria. And she's like, Damon, leave me out of your schemes. But now he's in the capital and he speaks to a member of the City Watch. Now, Damon, he used to be commander of the City Watch, of the Gold Cloaks back in the day. Now, that is important because Damon, he has a lot of friends in the capital. So this is the crux of the issue. Damon says you are to find and slay Prince Aemond Targaryen. Now, I have a lot of issues with this. Firstly, it's not Damon's place. It's not his place. It's Rhaenyra's call. We don't expressly see Rhaenyra order the death of Aemond. Now, the way I interpreted everything was that when Rhaenyra said, I want Aemond Targaryen, she wanted him brought before her. You can deal with him later, you can punish him, whatever. But before you do that, try and extract as much information out of him as possible while you have the chance to try and locate where Luke may have gone down in the water, because Rhaenyra still does not have his remains. Now, she knows he's gone. She knows that the chance, the hope, it's over. But still, to have his body and give him the proper burial that he deserves, the proper funeral that he deserves, she still is going to want that. So by eliminating Aemond, there goes that chance. And I don't like that Damon did that. I get why he did it. I understand. He wants to impress Rhaenyra. He wants to do something. He wants to be involved. He wants to be able to actually be, in his mind, constructive and helpful. Now, that is not how it plays out. And also, I love Damon as a character, but he needs to remember his position. I'm just saying, you are not king. It's what Rhaenys was saying, like, if only you were in charge. But you're not. And as much as I do like Damon, he is still a man of his times. There is still, there's flickers of misogyny in him. He probably can't resist saying something when really he should be taking a step back and letting Rhaenyra take center stage. The question is, does Rhaenyra know you're doing this? I don't think so. And another issue is when she says, well, what do we do if we can't find Aemond? Now, the show was very clever. They left it open-ended. They didn't have Damon confirm or deny what he wanted to do. You just had him sort of smirking. But there is plausible deniability. We don't know what he said. He may have said, just go after whoever you can find. Get the next best person. He may have said, no, just Aemond. We don't know. Again, it's clever on behalf of the show because it's ambiguous and we're all going to be picking it apart. Then we get a scene between these two individuals, Sir Criston Cole and Aemon Targaryen. So we know they are close. They have been for years. I do get a feeling like, you know that meme where it's like two idiots agreeing with each other? Like, yeah, exactly. It wasn't not that, put it that way. And Sir Criston Cole, he's just like Larys Strong. He's a snake. Like, he's boning your mother and letting you slag her off at the same time. Like, Criston Cole, you could never make me like you. The issue that is being discussed is Aemond questioning Alicent's loyalty because of her past relationship with Rhaenyra. Obviously, she's been sending letters. She publicised it at the Green Council. Aemond will not appreciate that one bit. And one of the things with Aemond is, because we didn't see him being scolded. Now, maybe he was, because the first reaction would be, what have you done? This is not the plan. Even if you want to co-sign what he did, it's still not part of the plan. The question I have is Aemond contrite on any level? Privately? Does he regret what he did? Or does he feel like he has to put on a front? He has to pretend like, yeah, I meant it. I'm still trying to gauge where Aemond is with all of that. But one thing I was not here for was him doubting his mother. Now, I have criticisms of Alicent, but I can't really fault her as a mother. Like, she loves her children, and everything she's doing is in service to them. But Aemond doesn't seem to recognise that. So all of Alicent's efforts are not being appreciated, and I feel bad for her. And it's just a respect thing. It's like, not only is she your mother, but she's the queen, and she's got you through a lot in life. So maybe don't slag her off, you know, in private, bitching about her. So there's tension, there's feelings in the air. Things are not great in the Team Green camp at the moment. There seems to be division, and you can contrast that with Team Black, who are all plunged into grief, which, without realizing it, has actually united them incredibly strongly. Like, they've all kind of come together with a collective grief. So as things stand at the beginning, you know, we've got a lot to go. As things stand now, Team Black appear to be more united. Team Green seem to be having a few teething issues, getting on the right page. We see Otto trying to do that thing he does where he's basically trying to manipulate Aemond to let him know, you know, I've been around, I know the game. You might want to listen to me. You might want to, you know, temper things a tad. There's very much this grandfather trying not to scold his grandson, but to let it be known. He's trying to read Aemond the riot book without reading him the riot book, but letting him know. Does that make sense? It's just very interesting dynamics that are at play. Now we get Blood and Cheese on the go. They are infiltrating the Red Keep. It's about to happen. And they just stroll through. Like, where are the security? We're at war. Whose mind? You can't let people just wander through the castle, even if they are supposedly a rat catcher. You've got to take extra precautions. That's not happening. They go into a room. It's obviously where Aemond and Criston Cole had been earlier that evening, but there's no one there. Now, they're basically looking in all the different rooms. They're trying to do something because they've been given a mission. I feel like they can't go back to Damon kind of empty-handed. They have to say, well, we did something to justify, you know, our payment. We can't just be like, well, we'll go in or we'll try again another night. I don't think that's really going to work. And they stumble across Helaena and her two children, the twins, Jaehaerys and Jaehaera. Now, in the book, there is a third child, a son, Maelor, who is involved in all of this. Helaena is given a choice. She's basically told, you know, which one? Pick between your children, who will live and who will not. I mean, talk about an impossible choice. Obviously, we don't have Maelor in the show, but Helaena, she, I don't even know what to say. She has to pick between her twins, the two babies that she carried. She's got to pick between them. And a lot of people are saying, oh, well, I expected Helaena to scream and, react like Catelyn Stark did at the Red Wedding. Blood and Cheese is not the Red Wedding. They're different things entirely, and there's not a standard response. In terms of the way Helaena responded, personally, I loved it. Like, I didn't love it for her, but I thought it was just so perfect. It was the right tone, because we are being told that, Helaena is very ethereal and she's very sensitive. She's got these dreams and visions. She's more in tune with sort of more godly, magical things. And she very well may be neurodivergent. That is what is being implied. So she's not screaming because she's trying to react in the moment. She's like, it's probably a feeling of, is this actually happening? Is this for real? Because if I was Helaena, I would be like, no. This is a dream. This is a vision. This is not real. But it's sadly very, very real. And so what do you do in that moment? You revert to what you know. Helaena, she's still only a kid. She literally scoops up the only child she can save, because she's no match for these two men with all their weapons. She grabs the child that she can and flees, and she runs to her mother. That broke my heart. Like, the way she was clutching her own child, yet Helaena herself is still only a kid. It was a lot, and it was very emotional. And I think Fia Sabin was absolutely spectacular as Helaena in that particular scene. It was brilliant. Now, I would have personally liked the episode to have ended with Helaena. I saw somebody say something yesterday where it was like Helaena from the back, like the camera pulling away. So you can't see, but you know that they're holding their child and this has happened. This is real. Now, that's just my personal preference, but because this is House of the Dragon and it's drama, yeah, the episode's not over yet. There's still one more shock in store. Alicent and Criston Cole. First of all, why is Criston Cole not on guard? Like, why is he not on duty? Why is he always dropping the ball, slacking, slying off, like pulling a sickie? He's never at his post. Yeah, when I saw that first episode at the premiere and I saw that moment, like, it was shocking at the beginning of the episode. I was like, whoa, okay, so that's what we're doing, all right. To see it again so brazenly, just sort of riding him, like, it wasn't great, was it? It was the worst timing you could have ever had. Like, Helaena was traumatized twice. It's like a nightmare. You never want to see one of your parents doing it. Hell no. Like, no, just Oberyn Martell my eyes. And the way that Helaena sunk to the ground and just held Jaehaera close to her and was like, they've killed the boy. And Alicent's like, wait, what? What's happened? Is something going on? What's happening? Everyone's trying to process things. And the episode ends on that kind of cliffhanger. What will happen next? How will people react to this? Because the first stone has already been thrown with the death of Lucerys. This is something to equal that. You know, it's tit for tat, a son for a son. I don't even know, like, this is intense. Basically, this season's going to be a roller coaster of emotions. It's going to be, like, if you thought season 1 was a lot, season 2, we're going to be blown away because there's so much happening and it's high stakes. And the more that time passes and the war goes on, it's almost like that light at the end of the tunnel gets further and further away because you're getting deeper into the war and there's no way out, and people are hurting and people are dying. People are dropping left and right. It's getting out of hand. Now, overall, I really did love this episode. I think the production level was spot on. The outfits looked amazing. Everything was bright. I could see everything. I loved it. Like, visually, it was a 10 out of 10 for production. And I'm excited to see how things go. I'm going to give it, I don't know whether to give like a rating for the episode, like to do each episode. I think this was pretty good. I'm going to give it I don't know, maybe an 8 out of 10. There were things I would change, but I did like it. Now, obviously, I need to know what you guys think because that's what we do here. We are a collective family. We all talk about these different things and we share our views, what we liked, what we didn't like. That is part of what makes it so exciting. It's that water cooler TV thing where everyone kind of gathers week on week to discuss that week's episode. And that's what I'm going to be doing for the duration of House of the Dragon season 2. It's what I'll do when we get the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, season 3 of House of the Dragon. Part of it is to formulate a space where we can share our ideas and to talk about different things on the episode and to get us all thinking, and we can all come up with different things. That's why I'm doing this. So yeah, that was House of the Dragon season 2, episode 1. They came out of the gates roaring like we're not going to have a moment's peace this entire season. But one of the things I do want to say is that this channel and my other platforms, it is a safe space. Unless you're like a creepy weirdo who's just looking for attention, you know, you will get an immediate block if you do that. This is a safe space to talk about what we liked and what we didn't like, what we thought was interesting, what surprised us, all those different elements. We're here to break it all down and to talk about it and to come up with new ideas ourselves and new theories and new perspectives. And I just feel like it's important to say because the fandom is insane and there are awful things within this fandom. But if you've found me and you've stumbled across this video, which you have because you're watching and listening, this is a safe space where we actually can talk in a positive light and we can discuss things back and forth and throw ideas around. All I ask is that you come at this in good faith. That's it. So yeah, that was House of the Dragon season 2, episode 1, my recap, review, whatever. I'm clocking out. I'm done for the day. I hope you like this video. Please do leave comments and I will interact with them. And yeah, until next time.